Welcome to the podcast. If you'd like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all of our episodes, then search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. That's our premium channel where all of our ad-free and advanced episodes live, all in one place. True Crime Today Premium Plus. Search it on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. Even try it for 3 days free.
Some secrets are kept in the basement, others in the morgue. Welcome to Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski, featuring defense attorney and host of the podcast, Defense Diaries, Bob Motta.
I can't wait for the 20th to come and go because I am desperately hoping that some of these jurors are going to come out and start talking about like what it was. Like, I'm dying to know. Are you dying to know? I want to know what did it for him.
Yeah, I'm really curious to know what did it for him. And I'm curious to know if after the fact they still have the same opinion now that they've seen the other elements of this case, the other 75% of the case that they did not get to see in court.
Yeah. I mean, it's like those two questions are the burning questions, right? Like, what was it for you? Mm-hmm. And had you known this, would you have come down in the same way? You know, if like those are the like, frankly, I only need to ask those two questions because those are the only two that I care about. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because those are it. Those are the two questions.
What would be counted as newly discovered evidence here? Could that be any of the things that just were not admitted into the first trial? Because there was a ton of stuff, obviously, that was evidence technically, but if you never got it into court, is that new evidence? Is that just dismissed evidence? Because it's really just the opinion of Gull what made it or not.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's got to be something that was not available to them at trial. Okay. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's a different thing. Like, you're having to go in there on that argument that she ruled improperly on the third party culprit stuff because it was evidence that they knew of. Mm-hmm. You know, newly discovered is where, you know, somebody comes forward and somebody that knows something, that says something that truly was not available to them prior to trial or at trial, you know? So no, it's different. Like those arguments about, you know, them not being able to put forth any kind of defense other than reasonable doubt it's appellate level stuff. It's appellate court stuff. So yeah, it's like that. It's a very different beast. Like post-conviction work is completely different. Like that's where you see post-conviction work a lot with, obviously, with the advent and the discovery of DNA and then the technology that's improved and continues to improve year after year after year. Yeah. That's why you're seeing so many, those always come in under post-conviction relief because they had the biological sample back then, but they didn't have the ability to show us what it meant. Yeah. So now that they have the technology, it's newly discovered because it couldn't have been discovered back then. So that's why you always see those things coming in on post-conviction petitions as opposed to appeals with all of that stuff. So, and it's the same thing here. It's the same thing here.
The problem being you got Gull and you got Liggett and you got kind of the, you know, little kingdom there where they all have, you know, they kind of control things to a very scary extent. If this does get a new trial, would it go back to Gull again, or could it go back to Gull again, or could it?
If the appellate court doesn't say that, like, there's going to be an attack on her in the appeals that she was in fact biased. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the state will rely on the Supreme Court, who really was silent as to it. So, like, the only kind of, like, I guess you would call neutral arbiter was the Supreme Court, as they tried to remove her from the case in their original action. I sat in that courtroom for that hearing in front of the Supreme Court, and it never came up. Yeah. It was in the brief, but it wasn't really addressed, you know, and it wasn't really addressed in the opinion other than saying we're not booting her. So, you know, the only other attacks on her were made by defense counsel where she's sitting in judgment of herself. Yeah. So those issues are certainly going to be raised on appeal. So if they find that she was biased, that her statements in open court with respect to the attorneys, her actions with regards to the attorneys, if they feel that those showed bias, then that would, you know, if they remand it, they'll say, if they find bias, they're going to say it's not in front of Gull again.
Yeah.
you get a new judge and you get a new trial.
Yeah.
If they don't, theoretically, it can be in front of Gull again.
Back to square one.
Imagine?
You already know what would happen. Like, why even do it? If I were Richard Allen, I'd be like, fuck it. Just keep me locked away if this is my only option.
The other part of it is that you've got this thing where, if they say, all right, well, we found the confinement conditions very compelling. Okay. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to necessarily bar those confessions from being introduced, but in order to counteract them, we're going to allow for the third party culprit stuff to come in, because we think that there is a nexus with Elvis Fields stating that he left DNA on one of the victims, giving details of the crime scene. We think that is a nexus that's been created. And it would, I'd kind of like to have her sit on the bench while all that shit came in. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, and the other part of this, Tony, is that I was of the mindset, and I was very open about this, that I thought that the defense was rushing this to trial. Mm-hmm. I thought that there was so much shit out there, so much shit that had legs that wasn't nonsense. Like, forget about the Odinism stuff. Yeah. There's just so much out there that had legs. And there were so many things that came up at trial that they weren't prepared to handle, like the van thing. And then them having Brad Weber get on the stand and testify that change his testimony, change what he had told the cops prior on the stand, changes it and says, whatever I said before about going out to repair my ATMs after work, no, that wasn't true. Came straight home, because it lines up perfectly with their timeline. Yeah. The phone stops moving at 2:32. It's like they made the facts fit. They say, give us a criminal. I mean, we'll make what the facts fit.
It's like they're playing with the cheat codes on this game. And everybody else is just trying to play the damn thing. And they're like, look at that. We got 100 lives. Up, down, down, left, right, BA, select, start. But
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a very disheartening case to see that this could happen in our country. The way that it has played out. I hope they find the right person. I still don't think it's him.
I still don't think it's him either. And neither of us know.
No.
Neither of us know, but, I feel the way that this went down, I cannot trust that verdict. And if they had the evidence to get him, the powerful evidence to get him, I wouldn't be feeling this way.
No.
Because if I were to subtract the confessions that I believe they extracted out of him, and I'm left with that unspent casing and the fact that he was out on the trails that day, it's not anywhere near what I need to know in order to find him guilty of those crimes, especially because they didn't establish a time of death. Yeah. I kept screaming on my lives. I'm like, attack the timeline. They have no way to prove what time the girls died. The conditions of that crime scene are bizarre. I don't give a shit. Where is all of Abby's blood? Where is it all? Why is her body clean? Dude, when we saw the crime scene photos, there was not a drop of blood anywhere on her body. Anywhere. And we're talking about somebody whose throat was cut. And nothing on her hands were, if you're stabbed in the throat, the first thing you're just instinctually, you're going to grab your throat. Yeah. You're going to cover your wound. There's nothing. Dude, everything about it is so bizarre. And they crammed it all into this weird little timeline of theirs where, the people that are like, oh, the timeline makes sense. Here's when Alan's here. I'm like, but you don't know when the girls died. They didn't prove that to me. Her phone stops moving. It's
even if he is guilty, this is not how you handle a trial. This is not how you get to justice or find the right person. You can't just railroad somebody because you all have a hunch.
Cramming them in the hole.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, we're going to be watching this for years, which is horrible. Now it's a matter of Richard Allen surviving prison.
True that.
Yeah.
True that.
You're neck deep in a dark, twisted tale. And just as the tension peaks, bam, a commercial about some miracle diet pill breaks the spell. It's like finding a fly in your soup after the first bite. But here's the fix. True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. You get to enjoy your crime stories without the junk. Ad-free episodes, extended interviews that go beyond the surface, and early access to all the gruesome details. It's like swapping out a can of cheap beer for a glass of fine whiskey. So search for True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe and keep the darkness flowing uninterrupted.